Good day, everyone. This is Pineleaf News, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and here at DDO Players. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Draculetta.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. What's going on at Turbine this week?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Yeah,
That
it's
sums it up.
kind of that in-between stage where they're getting update 25 ready, should be on Lamania soon, they said. So not much news is coming out. I was looking at the forums today, though, and I kind of found an interesting thread that I was reading through, and I thought we'd talk about it a little bit. There was a thread posted in the general forum section entitled Let's Talk Killer DM Mode. And this was started because originally Severlin in another thread had posted this statement. I know there is a subsection of players that want even more difficulty in existing content. We have to make decisions about where to spend our time, and we think our time would be better spent making new, challenging content with new mythic treasures to reward those challenges than trying to backtrack and introduce difficulty where a lot of players don't want it. We have considered a killer DM mode, something even harder than Elite, where content always scaled to 6 people. Champions have even nastier effects, and monsters did more damage. The problem outside of implementation time we ran into is this. What could we possibly use to reward players for playing it? We don't want to add even more XP into the game. Higher level loot drops aren't really useful when leveling since it is already outlevels the players on higher difficulties. No one is going to grind for power items if they will level past them quickly. So that is where these threads started. The poster posted that quote, and then people started talking about, okay, if they would do this killer DM mode, what would it be like? What could the rewards be? It's a pretty interesting thread to go through and read. It's a multi-page thread, so it's a long read. But then Severlin, about 4 or 5 pages in, he actually posted in this thread as well. And he says, this is an interesting discussion, and I just wanted to insert some random thoughts. I don't think it's possible for a team of any size to create handmade content in any video game faster than the most dedicated players can consume it.
That's true.
Yeah, we understand that we are in a perpetual content race with players. We know that we will always lose that battle. The plan is that the Temple of Elemental Evil will be big and fun and have good itemization. It will not keep the most engaged players entirely busy for 3.5 months it will take for the Shabbaroth update to be finished. It just won't. And we know this. You know this. We will try our best to make this content as replayable as possible. And then he also goes on to add, it is a rare and precious thing, maybe even close to impossible, for content to be challenging to a player that has run it many, many times and memorized the ins and outs of said content. We can change bits of it to make it harder, throw more creatures at the players, and have more evil tricks, but once the players learns the ins and outs of these new changes, the content will once again be easy, unless it can randomly just kill off people, and we don't really think that's a challenge.
That's a nuisance.
Yes, it is. That is really bad game design. I think so, so I'm glad they're not doing that. Sutherland also says, when we talk about a killer DM mode, we were talking about a new difficulty level for existing content with system changes to make it more challenging. It would not involve any additional customization of old content like randomized traps, additional difficulty on puzzles, and the like. The problem with making Epic Elite more relatively difficult, even for new content, is the gaps between difficulties become larger and more players can fall into a situation where the previous difficulty is too easy, but the next one up is too hard. On the other hand, new levels of difficulty can cause the potential players' grouping to fracture even more. We understand this. These conundrums are what keep us awake at night when we should be sleeping. And lastly, he says on the subject of the killer DM mode, it's a really mad motion that is good for discussing the problems surrounding difficulty in an ongoing game. While it is theoretically possible to implement it, I think even the short discussion here shows the potential problems in the design areas are present. I'm hoping that by bringing up these discussions, I am not creating situations where the players are getting upset at those theoreticals.
All right.
So in other words, they know some players think some of the content is too easy, and then there's some players that think it's too hard.
Inevitably, you'll have that.
Yeah, and it sounds like they are trying to balance that out, but I can't imagine the nightmare that would go into trying to please everybody. Because, I know there's a saying, you can't please everyone, which is true. There is always going to be a small subset of your game that is going to be unhappy with something about your game, be it difficulty, be it level design, yada, yada, yada. I guess that goes hand in hand with game design. But I think it was interesting just to see how they kind of toyed with the idea of maybe something higher than Epic Elite, but they realized they can't do it. And it sounded like in the thread, a lot of players kind of want this, but then they also understand that it would be a nightmare for them to implement. So if you have some time, I did link this. It will be in the show notes. I linked the thread. Go ahead and have a read of the thread and kind of see what you think and where you stand on it. So what do you say, Pineleaf? Would you want a killer DM mode?
You're talking to someone for whom Elite is considered to be a major, major challenge that's often over my head. Why do I want something worse?
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was kind of funny reading this, and I'm just thinking, and I literally thought that today when I was reading that thread. I'm like, man, Pineleaf and I die in Elite. I can't imagine anything worse than, Epic Elite. So,
well, actually, we sometimes die in hard.
yeah, exactly. I do like the idea that where he said, they want to randomly place traps or, just straight up kill players. Because as Mock in the chat room says, that's right up my alley of DMing, just, killing players. So I'm all for that.
All right, then. Let's go into DDO Chronicle issue 133, where apparently we have a real nice conversation and screenshot of the week with Fred. Isn't he cute?
Cute is one word, I guess. Really sucks your brains out, but yeah,
Well, yeah.
But that's a friendly mind flayer, though.
It's a friendly mind flayer.
Elsewhere in the Chronicle, it looks like there is a new player on YouTube that goes by the name of VMO. They are creating some walkthroughs and gameplay videos. So go ahead and click through on the Chronicle to check out their channel and see all of those. Ginger Spice is at it again with some raid training videos. Ginger Spice always does a great job at the videos, so go and give that a look. Also, DDO Kasplat, love that name. Of course, if you don't know what that is DDO Cast. Patrick is stepping his toes into the permadeath world. First time he's ever done it. And he is doing this on Thursday nights on Twitch. And the name of that show is DDO Kasplat. And he suffered his first death this week. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, looks like the bookbinders got him. The Binders Quest got him. So
Binders,
which makes sense. So you can see that, and I guess he's already rolled his new character up and is starting his new life on his permadeath. So we'll see how far he gets this time.
Misery's Peak.
Misery's Peak. We got a shout out, of course, in the Chronicle for our episode last week. So thank you for that. DDO Cast, recent podcast is up, and that is a DDO debates with new player advice. And there's some dude on there that's called Draculetta that probably didn't know what he was talking about, but you go ahead and listen anyway. No, that was a great time, and thank you for Patrick for inviting me on to that. If you haven't listened to it, give it a listen. There was some pretty good debate and conversation we had about some new player topics. Looks like our DDO has been updated. You can click through on the Chronicle to check that out. And the last thing that jumped out at me for the Chronicle is DDO Gamer drops an H-bomb. That's right. You can learn the power of the ham.
Of the ham?
It sounded like they dropped a ham bomb and it killed everybody in the room but the players. You'll have to read the blog entry. It sounds amazing.
I guess I don't understand what a ham bomb is, but all right.
Apparently hams kill people. So
hams kill... All right.
So you'll have to read about the hams killing people.
Right. Very well, thank you. And I noticed that one of the things in the Chronicle is mentioning that Lemania will be starting, well, they say next week, but that'll be sometime this week, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that on last week's weekly lunch stream, Cordovan did state this week at some point they were shooting at update 25, which does include the Temple of Elemental Evil on Telemania. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, should be this week. We can preview the temple.
Ooh, and see what evil ways they have of killing us. All right, then, let's head into our store sales. Anything good on sale this week?
The free sample of the week through the 19th is the Guild Airship Beacon. You get 5 of those when you use the coupon code BOAT13, BOAT 13. And as always, that is one code use per account.
And what exactly is a Guild Airship Beacon? I know I have an airships, and
you can click on it and you will be able to access your guild ship no matter where you're at.
All right, that's useful.
It is very handy to have, especially if your airship has a lot of buffs and everything on it. So you can pop in, pop out, and you won't have to run to the marketplace or any other houses to use the airship access.
You'll be able to pop out also?
Well, yeah, because you can use the guy that's on your airship, and you can.
Yeah, but
well, I mean,
they'll put you at a airship station.
Right. Yeah, you can't go exactly back to where you were, but it's still handy if you need to get to your airship quickly. Also in the store, 25% off the Slayer Count Boost, Jewels of Fortune, the Shared Bank Platinum Vault, Bag Deposit Box, and upgrades for the banks. So this is a great time, as always, to go ahead and add bags and our Shared Bank or Platinum Vault if you need more storage space, and we all know we need storage space, because it is always at a premium.
Very well. And Musk of Argonesson has asked the question, to subscribe or not to subscribe? And he apparently considered it to have been a major mistake when he took the premium route in his early days instead of subscribing.
Yes, and he is a new writer to DDO players, so we welcome him. He has done a couple things so far, so we look forward to see what he has in store for us. But yeah, I really like this article. It was really good. He basically laid out everything that he did, why he didn't do VIP at first, and now kind of why he wishes he did go the VIP route at first. So if you're interested to see what he thinks, go ahead and give that a read, and we welcome him to the site.
All right, then. We also have a case of the Stone of Menace. And what is this crazy stone that sounds like it does some rather nasty things?
It's a very menacing stone, Pilot.
Yes, I mean, something about it sounds like in there that you're skipping levels with it or something like that.
Yeah, this was also from our new writer. Basically, back in 2012, when the Menace of the Underdark expansion was coming out, you could pre-order that, and you could pick up this stone. It was basically a stone of experience. You could use it to basically get a ton of experience all at once. The amount which you could get was also based on the version of the expansion that you purchased. It was limited to 1 use per account per server. And Muskagro says he immediately sent his level 10 halfling rogue hammer style a stone, and he went from 10 to 16.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, that was quite a number of levels in one shot.
And then as time went by, they kind of changed the stone a little bit, and then eventually the stone made its way into the DDO store for a while. And then now you can find a version of this in the Otto's Irresistible box, which are level 7 to 15 boxes that periodically show up in the store. I know last weekend you could get the Otto's boxes. They usually tend to show up maybe once a month or so, I think.
Yeah.
I've never actually bought one, but
neither have I. So I don't know what are the odds of getting something good. I know how you are with the random number generator.
Right, exactly. And he says he basically has a love-hate relationship with these stones, but that's a story for another time. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll get an article explaining that. So I don't know if he had a really bad experience or he had a really good experience or what. So I guess a little teaser of what is to come maybe from our new writer.
All right, then. Then our screenshot of the week, number 12, is a picture of Drac and I who are sitting in a very big chair.
Yes, it's about time you made an appearance on the screenshot of the week.
Or at least my Artificer did.
Well, it's true. Yeah, this is from a couple weeks ago when we were doing the Prisoner of the Mind quest. We killed the giant and then had to kill a few other things, and we ran back, and he had a very big chair sitting there.
Yes.
So I said, let's hop up and get a screenshot because this will be kind of funny because that chair was freaking huge.
Well, that's for sure. We're both in there, and there is a lot of room to spare. So therefore, let's go into our News Beyond DDO, where the Temple of Elemental Evil Companion's Guide is now available for free.
Free, you say, Pine Leaf? Free?
That's it. Free. Just go to the site and download it from Wizard's site and no charge or anything like that.
Yes.
So it'll cost a few electrons, I guess.
Well, yeah. Cost some bandwidth, I guess. But yeah, it is free. It can also be found on Drive-Thru RPG. I did update my article with this because after I posted it about you could get it on Drive-Thru RPG, I did find it on the Wizards Coast itself, and it was a higher quality PDF. And another nice thing about the version on the WotC site was there was no watermarks on the PDF.
Well, that is nice.
Yeah. So I did a direct link for that. But this is basically getting players ready for the Temple of Elemental Evil in 5e, which we all know is coming out pretty soon later this summer. It does include some new races, and it includes 40 new spells.
Well, they do have the prep, though, coming out in a couple of weeks for I guess it's the lead-in into the Temple of Elemental Evil, the Princess of the Apocalypse.
Yes, yep. Yeah, and this will basically get you up to speed. You can create a new character, get some spells. I think the highlight of this PDF is the spells, because you can actually use these spells currently as it stands now, and there are some pretty interesting spells. And of course, since they are kind of, surrounding the elements, all the spells have like an elemental flair to them. And some of the new races are pretty interesting as well. I know a lot of people want to be gnomes. You can actually roll up a deep gnome if you would want.
So, yes, I know that there had been some complaints about the lack of deep gnomes. So, actually, no, that was from DDO. They were complaining about that. Yeah. I say I'm getting my DDO and Wizards.
And
sometimes
it should be noted, I should say, that some of this information that is in this will also make its way into the Princess of the Apocalypse, which is the first adventure for the Temple series. Like you said, that they're kind of introducing the Temple to 5e. And so some of this is going to be some like bleed over, but not all of it. So, but it's free, so there's no excuse for not downloading it.
Skywrite. Now that's quite a spell.
Yeah, there are some really interesting spells, actually.
Right, then let's head into a look at the Wrath of a Charlaine board game. That's right, I take a look at the second board game in the Dungeons & Dragons board game series, where this is the first time we did Castle Ravenloft, this time Wrath of a Charlaine, which is essentially an old school type dungeon, I feel like it. One of those big dungeons where you've got monsters of all types all thrown in together who, for some reason, you wonder, why in the world do they care about the adventurers coming in and aren't just fighting themselves? It's like you have all these orcs, you've got these kobolds, you've got these duergar, just about any type of monster you can name, they're all just thrown together. You ever remember any of those dungeons like that?
Yes.
That's what Wrath of a Charlaine feels like.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Yeah.
think your assumption there is correct. That is pretty much what it is.
So therefore, I go through there and go through the contents of that, the heroes, the villains, the new mechanics, because they added a few things like doors, which I thought, why in the world did they add doors to a volcano? It's like, what?
Easy exit or entrance, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, the chambers make sense where you have these chambers in there because, you'll need one for the dragon and things like that. And the campaigns, they decided to try that. But I just felt like in this one, most of the adventures were a variation of Adventure 4. At least that was my opinion on it. And I also have a link to the Watch It's Played episode, just in case you want to know how it's played and want to see it. Watch It Played did a series on the Wrath of a Charlaine. In fact, it was their first one after they officially launched the site. So the next week, of course, we will go into Drizzt.
Yay, Drizzt.
Yes. So let's then go into our week in DDO. What did you do?
And I can just say about the Drizzt, prepare to be poisoned a lot, Pinely.
I have to tell you right now that I do not get poisoned anywhere near as often in Drizzt as I do in Wrath of a Charlaine.
See, I've never got poisoned.
In Wrath of a Charlaine, I feel like I am constantly poisoned or dazed.
Kind of like how you're always getting mummy rot in DDO, huh?
Yes.
Which we'll talk about that later. But before we get into the week in DDO, I did want to say something about the Otto's Irresistible Box we were talking about. I didn't see this until now in the chat room. Nithpon in the chat room says the Otto boxes are the McRibs of the DDO store.
McRibs?
And that's really funny if you think about it. That's all I'll say. We'll just let that lie, and then people are going to start laughing because they're going to get the joke. This week.
Since I don't even understand the word, so how am I going to get the joke?
I'll explain it to you when the show's
Okay.
over, finally. This week in DDO, I took my new Shade Archive that I created into Wayloon Prison, and I wanted to see if my problem was solved or what was going on. And I found out that I actually didn't need to create a new character, but it's okay.
Okay.
The deal with the Wayloon Prison quest are in your quest log, they only show the epic version of the quest, which is level 26. But once you actually get to the dungeon entrance, you can pick to do the heroic version, which would be the level 16 or 17.
Okay. All right. Because I know that when we did it, we didn't go to the dungeon entrance.
Right. Yep. And that's because I kept picking, because you remember I talked about last week, I kept picking quest up, and everything I picked up said it was a level 26, but I'd look on the wiki, and the wiki said it was a level 16 quest, so I'm like, I'm confused. What am I doing wrong? But yeah, so basically I created a new Shade Archive for no reason, but that's all right. It's no big deal, really, because I really didn't do a lot on the other. So basically, I just ran a couple of the Wayloon Prison quests. I did Friends in Low Places and a lesson in Deception. And let me just say one thing about a lesson in Deception. To the developer that made this, good on you for being evil, sir. Good on you. Because I don't want to spoil it for people that have never done the quest, but let's just say there's choices you have to make. And these choices will determine if somebody lives or dies. And good on you, sir. Good on you. That's all I'll say. And I'm not going to tell you how many of the people that I was supposed to save died because some choices I made. I'll leave that for your imagination. And then I did work on, my Slayers and everything out there. But the only other thing I am noticing, and I don't know if this is a Wayloon Prison thing or if it's a RNG hates Drac thing, but I've only got one of the rare encounters out so far. And you would think I would get, as much as I've been in Wayloon, I would get a few more of those rares, but I've only seen one so far. So I'm going to chalk that up to the RNG just hates me as always.
Well, yeah, that's a given.
And then also I created a wizard because I have never played a caster and I wanted to create a Pale Master. And the reason why I did this is when the temple actually comes out, Pine Leaf and I, of course, are going to kind of put our other characters on hold and run through the temple stuff since it starts at level 7. So I created a new wizard. I started at level 4 because I can. And I really didn't want to run Korthos and everything again because I've run that I don't know how many times. Nothing. I'm not saying anything bad about Korthos, but I thought, I'll just skip it to 4. So I actually haven't played anything yet with it. I need to do that and get that to level 7 at some point. But so now I have this brand new wizard, which should be interesting because I have never played a caster ever. Even in pen and paper, I've never played a caster. So it's going to be interesting. That's all I'll say because I don't know how it's going to work out. I am doing Pale Master, though, which is going to be cool because I'll get like dead things and stuff. So
You get dead things.
yay for the dead things. And then we, of course, had our weekly Wednesday playthrough, which I will let you talk about, sir.
Very well, then. We will begin with my Artificer, which I ran with Draculetta. We did the Tomb of the Immortal Heart on Elite, and it finished off with... Yes, and we finished off with me getting Mummy Rot again. I think I got a bad case of it the last time I did that one, so we just repeating itself. And I was going through the town looking for a shop that sold potions, and as I was doing so, I'm keep on casting lesser, oh boy.
You were doing restoration, weren't you?
Yeah, lesser restoration. Yeah, I was doing lesser restoration in order to keep myself from getting so low because my charisma was dropping down like a rock, and I was trying to keep it from going zero. Keep it from going down to 0 because I'm pretty sure you get killed if it reaches 0. Now, of course, if I got killed while I'm in the middle of town, it probably wouldn't have been too much of a problem.
You are a Mummy Rot magnet, sir.
Yes, for sure. We also did the Tomb of the Burning Heart on Elite, and I think that's the one where I got killed when we were in one of those rooms with all the skeletons shooting at us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. When we got, if you know that quest, you kind of get split up for a while. And there is a couple sections where there's a bunch of skeleton archers up on some walls shooting down at you. And yeah. I told Pine Leaf just to like run through, but he was just getting pounded. And I think you lasted a while, but you couldn't get away from them.
Yeah, well, right. So I got killed by them in the end. So that was a bit of a problem. And the other thing that was interesting here is that we did manage to open up the thing with our hirelings. Between the hirelings and my mechanical dog, we were able to get the doors open because you need 4 characters in order to do it. And sometimes the hirelings cooperate and sometimes they don't.
I know that took forever to get that because, my hireling, I told, okay, stand here and light this thing up. Yeah. So I said, stay there. And as soon as I moved, they followed me. And I'm like, no, I said, stay there. So finally, after, telling it, I don't know how many times, it finally worked. And I think you had a little better time with that than I did. For some reason, your hireling and your dog kind of listened to you more than my cleric hireling listened to me. But
right.
Clerics, what are you going to do?
Well, they can sometimes keep you from getting killed.
Yeah, well, when they're doing their jobs, they do.
Yes. We also did the Tomb of the Crimson Heart, and I decided to dial that one down to hard after what happened in Burning Heart. And we reached level 12.
Yes, we did. Seems like, well, I guess it makes sense since these are the characters we're playing together. We're pretty much leveling at just about the same time, I think. So
right.
Seems like for some reason I leveled a little sooner than you did, but then before...
No, I don't think I mentioned it until...
Oh, okay.
So I don't know who actually leveled first because I don't announce it. I haven't bothered to announce it. I just wait till the end and ask you how close you are to leveling whenever I level during the run.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't really paying attention. I just happened to say something and you were like, oh yeah, I level 2. And I'm like, well, there you go. We're both 12 now.
Yeah. So I suspect, and even if you do manage to level before me at one of the times, then I'll just run to the bank. I have got so much XP banked.
Do you?
Oh yeah, I've got, I think most of my shared vault is XP, which means I probably should actually go and get and buy some more shared space because right now it's all XP tokens.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. All right, now let's go into my permadeath cleric, my trial cleric, who ran pretty much the harbor is the best way of summing that up. There are a couple of quests I skipped in the harbor, but I did just about all the ones that are reasonably soloable there, finishing off with the water work. And for once, I actually did both Gnashtooth and Tunnel Worm. So it's been the first time in a while that I did Tunnel Worm. And Tunnel Worm is still a bit of a challenge, but it's a lot easier when you know what's coming. Because last time I did it, I was just dropped in this room that was filled with water and with all these things going at you. And this time I managed to land on a platform and get most of what was in there killed before having any troubles in there. So I think Tunnel Worm is a lot easier once you know what's in there, which I guess goes with the idea that they were saying earlier about how it's hard to keep a challenge because once you know the dungeon, the challenge becomes less.
Yep, exactly. You're part of the problem, Pine Leaf. You're part of the problem.
Oh yeah, but I was only doing that at normal though, so therefore.
Okay, I'll let it slide this time.
But Gnashtooth was a level 4 area, and I did not reach level 4 until actually I think early in Gnashtooth I got enough experience to hit 4, but I did not actually go to the class trainer until I finished Tunnel Worm completely.
Okay.
And the thing that I did not notice the last time I did this, because I probably wasn't paying attention or something like this, is that the end of Clan Tunnel Worm, when you find the person you're looking for, he gives you a hint that leads you to Shanto Core, which means that next time, because normally I've been going to the Syndicate next after the harbor, but I think this time I'm going to go to Shanto Core instead because it feels natural to go there from Clan Tunnel Worm because of the hint given there.
I guess I didn't realize you never knew that was kind of the open. It's I guess kind of the opening to it. They, like you said, they kind of hint at it. So
right.
I just always assumed you knew that.
No, I really didn't. I think you mentioned that last week or something like this, but it didn't register until I actually saw this guy and the hint being given there.
And you're like, it all makes sense now.
Maybe not everything, but very well. Now we know why these guys are disappearing. All right. Now, I also created a new cleric to run with Drac for the Temple of Elemental Evil, but unlike Drac, I decided I'll run to Korthos Island and didn't go directly to 4. Instead, I started at level 1.
You always have to show me up, don't you, Pilot?
Yeah, I know. So I did Korthos Island and finished up and now have arrived at the harbor where I presume I'll be doing some quests and I might do things in a little bit different order than I did with my other clerics. And one area I did skip with the Drow cleric were the hills that connect to the harbor. So I should do that on this character and maybe do a couple of quests that I did not do on my cleric. And besides, if I get killed, that's not my permadeath character.
Hey, there you go. and we're going to get killed in the temple anyway, so it's all good.
Right. Very well. I ran a game of Wrath of a Charlaine where I was doing the closed doors. As I said, why have doors in a volcano? I don't know. Well, I guess in some way this particular one asked the question itself. What is so terrible that they have it behind closed doors? And a volcano is not exactly the best place to build doors, so there must really be something nasty there. And I also did 2 adventures with the Legend of Drist, where I did the Search for Mithril Hall and Siege of Darkness. And Siege of Darkness was a really interesting one because it's done on a pre-generated map, and I had a lot of fun with that. So let's go into donations, which we did not receive any this week, but if you'd like to help support DDO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you will find rewards including a mention on DDO Players News or even be able to be a guest host with us. We did, though, receive an iTunes review, and what was that all about?
Maximum Flame left us a 5-star review on iTunes, and the title of it was Awesome with 3 exclamation points.
Ooh.
So that means we're very awesome, I guess. He says, great job. Well, I'm assuming it's a he. He said, great job for a couple of familiar voices. I'm a noob as well, but I'm a longtime Lotro player on Landerval. So apparently he knows us from Lotro Players, where I used to be on that podcast, and you still are. He's looking to immerse himself into DDO. Thanks for all of our help, Maximus Flame. So thank you for the 5-star review. And we currently have 3 5-star reviews. So our average rating on iTunes is 5 stars.
Whee! Thank you, Maximus Flame.
And that really helps out. Just in case you don't know how the ratings and everything work on iTunes, the more 5-star reviews you get, the better you show up on search results. So now if you go into iTunes and you search for DDO, we are like the second result that comes up, which that is great for us because it really gets us out there and hopefully gets us new listeners. So that's why the iTunes reviews are kind of important to us because it helps to get the name out there on iTunes. So thank you for the review.
Very well. And as for featured comments, what do you mean there weren't any?
Because I forgot to look for them and add them to the show notes. So we're just going to say there wasn't any. Actually, I think there was some that I should have put in. We will talk about them next week. How's that?
All right, we'll see. And actually, in looking at this, they're all, looks like, related to subscribe or not to subscribe.
Yeah, there was some pretty good responses to that article. So we will definitely talk about them next week. I will actually do my job and put them in the show notes.
All right, then let's go to the emails. We don't have any emails, but if you'd like to, you can email us at podcast@ddoplayers.com. You can also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance at Players Ally, DDO Players at DDO Players, Draculetta at Draculetta_72, and Pineleaf at Pineleaf Needle. The Players Alliance has 3 live shows every single week. On Mondays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. On Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Guild Wars Players News. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Lotro Players News. And you can join us for our live shows at ddoplayers.com/live. And thank you, everyone, for listening. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to loot those treasure chests.